0.1 Bitcoin. That is the number. Not one, not half, not as much as you can afford. 0.1. And by the end of this investigation, you will understand why this specific number is not a suggestion. It is the logical conclusion of a monetary system that has been quietly draining your purchasing power. Not with a crisis, with a mechanism.
We are not here to talk about price predictions. We are not here to celebrate bull markets or mourn corrections. We are here to talk about architecture. Think of your savings as water in a bucket. You work. You pour water in. You are disciplined. You cut expenses. You save more. You follow the rules. And yet the level never quite rises the way it should. Because the bucket has a hole. And the hole was there before you arrived. That hole has a technical name. Monetary inflation. And every year, without your consent, without a vote, without a single headline, governments expand the money supply. They create more units. They dilute the value of every unit you already hold. Your savings do not disappear in a crash. They evaporate. Slowly, invisibly, like water through a crack you cannot see. In 2020 alone, the United States created more than 20% of all dollars ever printed. In 12 months. If you held cash through that period, you lost 20% of your purchasing power without spending a single cent. Not a market crash. Not a bad investment. Policy. And here is the question no one asks. If this has been happening your entire life, and it has, what does it mean for everything you have saved so far? Here is what the financial textbooks do not tell you. They cannot stop. This is not a political choice. It is a mathematical trap. Global debt has reached $115 trillion. The only viable exit for every major government on Earth is to inflate it away. Make the debt cheaper over time. Make your savings worth less over time. It is a transfer, legal, systematic, continuous, from everyone who holds paper to everyone who holds something real. For most of modern history, something real meant real estate, or gold, or government bonds. These were the designated safe havens, the places where the connected, the educated, and the wealthy parked their value to survive the currency cycles. But in March 2013, in a small island nation in the Mediterranean, those safe havens revealed their fundamental weakness. Cyprus. We covered this in the last investigation. One weekend, no warning, 47.5% of deposits above 100,000 euros gone. Not stolen, legally restructured, with a European directive, with a stamp, with the approval of the IMF, the ECB, and the European Commission. The bucket does not just leak. Sometimes, someone pulls the drain. And since 2016, since the BRRD was signed into European law, that drain is now standard procedure across 27 countries. Not an emergency exception, the rule. So what do you do with a bucket that has a hole and a legal drain? You find a different container. There is a psychological trap built into Bitcoin that the market exploits systematically. It is called unit bias. One Bitcoin at $100,000 feels inaccessible. So the mind searches for something more attainable. 0.0001, $10 in Satoshis. A number that feels like participation. A number that quiets the anxiety without solving the problem. But here is the distinction the market does not want you to make clearly. 0.0001 Bitcoin is a starting point. It is not a position. In a system where the mechanisms we have described continue to operate, where the bucket keeps leaking, where the drain is now law, 0.0001 is an introduction, not a destination. We examined the 0.01 trap in a previous investigation. Today we are talking about where you actually need to arrive. Let us talk about why 0.1 Bitcoin specifically. Not a round number chosen for aesthetics. A number derived from mathematics. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. This is not a company policy. It is written into the protocol at the level of code, enforced by every node on the network simultaneously. It cannot be changed by a vote, a directive, or a central bank decision. It is the first asset in human history with absolute, verifiable, unbreakable scarcity. Of those 21 million, approximately 19.8 million have already been mined, with the remaining 1.2 million set to be released over the next century through the halving mechanism. Of those already mined, an estimated 3 to 4 million are permanently inaccessible, locked in wallets whose keys no longer exist, which means the Bitcoin actually available to the market, circulating, accessible, tradable, is closer to 15 or 16 million, not 21, 15. Now consider, there are 8 billion people on this planet. If you wanted to give every family on Earth one single Bitcoin, just one, there is not enough. The mathematics of scarcity are not theoretical. They are absolute, and they are about to collide with a wave of institutional demand that the retail market has never encountered before. 0.1 Bitcoin is 1/10,000,000th of the total supply. In a world of 8 billion people, of which perhaps 50 million have meaningful savings to protect. The position you are considering is not a trade. It is the recognition that scarcity, once understood, cannot be unseen. 3 forces are converging simultaneously, and when forces of this magnitude collide, they do not create ripples. They create the kind of structural shifts that look obvious in hindsight and invisible in real time. First, institutional adoption. The largest asset managers on Earth, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, now hold Bitcoin in regulated products. Pension funds, sovereign wealth vehicles, the capital flowing into a fixed supply from entities of this scale is categorically different from retail speculation. It is systematic, automatic, and it will not reverse. Second, the sovereign debt crisis. Every major central bank is caught in the same trap we described. Raise rates, recession. Lower rates, inflation. The only remaining tool is money creation. And money creation, as we have established, is a transfer from your purchasing power to their balance sheet. The mechanism does not change, only the scale. Third, the collapse of institutional trust. Not sudden, not dramatic, quiet, systematic. A generation that watched 2008 and Cyprus and the overnight freezing of accounts and the BRRD institutionalizing bail-ins across an entire continent. This generation is asking a question their parents never had to ask. What do I actually own? And can they take it? Bitcoin, held in self-custody, answers that question in a way that no other asset in human history has managed. The answer, when you hold your own private keys, is unambiguous. Someone in the room is thinking about the corrections, the 80% drawdowns, the years of silence between cycles. Let us reframe this. Volatility is not a flaw. It is the price of admission to the most performant store of value in modern financial history. In every major cycle, Bitcoin has recovered from its corrections and established new structural floors. Every single time, the drawdowns are real. The recoveries are also real. But here is the comparison that actually matters. On one side, an asset that falls 60 or 70% in a bear cycle and recovers over 4 years. On the other, a currency that loses 3 to 5% of its purchasing power every year, guaranteed by design, invisibly, without a single headline. One is visible and uncomfortable. The other is invisible and permanent. You decide which loss you can afford. Here is where the investigation arrives. You can continue to optimize within the existing architecture. Work harder, save more, pour water into the bucket faster than it leaks. Invest in the assets the system has designated as safe. It is a valid choice. It is the choice most people make, because it is the choice most people were taught. Or you can do something different. You can look at the architecture, at Cyprus, at the BRRD, at executive orders, at the paperwork crisis of 1968, at the entire trajectory of the modern financial system, and you can decide to hold something that exists entirely outside of it. 0.1 Bitcoin, 10 million Satoshis, accumulated carefully, over time, without panic, without leverage, with a horizon measured in years, not weeks. History does not remember the people who waited for institutional approval before acting. It remembers the ones who understood the direction and moved. The system was not built for you, but the exit exists. Secure your 0.1 and subscribe to Beyond Crypto to stay awake in a sleeping world.